Fog clings to the Thames like a thief's cloak as dawn creeps over London in the winter of 1711. In a dimly lit chamber of the South Sea House, quill scratches echo against parchment, tallying a national debt swollen to £10 million from endless wars. The air hangs heavy with the scent of ink and ambition. Here a fledgling company is born, not from maps of distant trade routes, but from the cold calculus of debt. The South Sea Company, chartered by Parliament, promises to shoulder Britain's burdens, convert annuities into company stock, pay the government handsomely, and in return claim a monopoly on trade with Spain's vast South American colonies. Shares begin modestly at £100, backed by the phantom gleam of gold-laden galleons that never sail. But reality bites harder than salt spray. The War of the Spanish Succession has carved restrictive treaties. Asiento rights allow a mere 4,800 slaves yearly to South America and one cargo ship guarded by Spanish jealousy. Actual profits? A trickle. £300,000 in the best years, dwarfed by the 6% interest promised to debt holders. Yet the ledgers glow with promise. Enter John Blunt, the company's steely director, a scrivener turned financier, whose eyes see not continents, but ledgers ripe for manipulation. He whispers to ministers in smoke-filled clubs, convert more debt, inflate the stock, and all prosper. The weight of gold guineas clinks in discreet exchanges, bribes dressed as gifts. By 1718, King George I, Elector of Hanover and now Britain's monarch, accepts the governorship. Royal favor ignites the fuse. London stirs. Change Alley, a narrow warren off Cornhill, becomes a cauldron. Brokers hawk shares under flickering torchlight, their cries piercing the din. South Sea at 150, riches from Peru. Commoners pawn heirlooms, grandmother's silver, father's watch, for a scrap of paper promising fortune. Nobles, sensing the tide, pour in estates' worth. The elite circle titans. Alexander Pope pens verses of avarice. Jonathan Swift mocks the frenzy, yet both dip toes into the bubbling pot. Stock climbs to £200, then £300, fueled not by cargoes docking with emeralds, but the alchemy of rumor. Debt conversion schemes multiply. Holders trade fixed annuities for volatile shares, betting on a cent. Parliament, lobbied with velvet-gloved hands, passes the Bubble Act in June 2020, outlawing unregulated bubble companies, ironically channeling all frenzy into South Sea's vaults. Echoing footsteps quicken in empty counting houses as night falls. The company's capital swells to £24 million, shares piercing £500. Whispers of insider sales ripple, but greed deafens. Sir Isaac Newton, the era's titan, watches from Trinity College. Once scorning speculation, he invests £7,000 in 1720, equivalent to millions today. His shares quadruple. Genius bows to the market's roar. Yet beneath the clamor, cracks form. No ships return laden. Slaves fetch meager returns. Spanish galleons remain mirages. The bubble swells, a vast orb of paper wealth, heavy with the delusion that debt can birth empires. Torchlight dances on wax-sealed contracts, illuminating faces flushed with dreams of overnight opulence. But in the silent hours, ledgers whisper warnings, of vaults too empty, of coins that never clink. Torchlight flickers across the vaulted ceilings of Westminster as spring 1720 unfurls into madness. South Sea shares, once humble at £128 in January, claw their way to £550 by May, each tick of the broker's chalk a thunderclap in Change Alley. John Blunt orchestrates from shadowed offices, his quill scripting a second debt conversion, £4.5 million more in annuities swapped for stock at inflated prices. The company's capital balloons to £37.3 million, a mountain of paper propped by nothing but belief. Bribes flow like the Thames at flood, £50,000 to Chancellor John Aislabie, £20,000 to Postmaster Earl Craggs, whispers of guineas to dukes and poets alike. Parliament, pockets lined with South Sea largesse, rubber stamps the frenzy, blind to the rot beneath. Isaac Newton enters the fray, his Principia forgotten amid the siren's call. From Cambridge, the man who mapped gravity pours £7,000 into shares early in the year, roughly £1.5 million in today's coin. They soar to £28,000 by summer's peak. I can calculate the motions of the heavenly bodies, he later laments, but not the madness of people. Even the king's mistresses, Lady Heathcote and Mrs. Schulenburg, pocket £10,000 each in gifts. Royal tables groan under the weight of company directors' feasts, where champagne toasts mingle with insider tips. Shares rupture £700, then £900, brokers scrambling to invent subscriptions at £1,000 a pop, payable in installments, luring the desperate with promises of partial riches. London swells with speculators, barbers invest life savings, maids mortgage futures, duchesses hawk jewels. Change Alley heaves, a press of sweat-soaked bodies shouting bids, quills snapping under frantic hands. The bubble's apex shatters reason. By August, shares eclipse £1,000, valuing the company at £500 million, 5 times the Bank of England's might, triple Britain's entire coin hoard. No gold crosses oceans. The Asiento yields a pittance, 1 slave ship annually under Spanish guns. Yet rumor reigns. Tales of Peruvian mines vomiting emeralds, Bolivian silver floods. Directors sell covertly. Blunt unloads £300,000 worth at the summit, knighted for his service. Panic whispers stir. A Dutch envoy warns of overvaluation. French financiers scoff from afar, but greed's roar drowns doubt. Empty market stalls echo with yesterday's clamor, now silent save for the clink of pawned silver. Families huddle over ledgers by candlelight, calculating phantom fortunes that buy manors, carriages, silks. The elite toast in Mayfair ballrooms, oblivious to the tremor in distant vaults. Newton cashes some gains but reinvests, chasing the ascent. Alexander Pope, the poet, dips £2,000 and watches it quintuple. Even the pious Quaker bankers scorning usury succumb. Parliament reconvenes amid the din, the Bubble Act channeling rival schemes into South Sea's maw. Over 100 bubble companies dissolve, their capital funneled to the monster. By late August, the orb strains. Shares dip to £900 on vague foreign sales rumors. Footsteps quicken in emptying alleys, torch flames guttering low. Directors convene in secret, propping prices with company cash buys, but the weight proves too great. Paper empires, untethered from coin or cargo, begin their inexorable drift earthward. September's chill seeps into Change Alley's stones as the first fissures widen. South Sea shares, perched at £1,000 in August's delirium, stutter to £900 on whispers of foreign sell-offs. Dutch merchants dumping, French banks sneering at the phantom valuation. Brokers' cries falter, chalk dust settling on blackboards like ash from a dying fire. John Blunt summons directors to smoke-hazed rooms, ordering company coffers cracked open, £1 million in cash repurchased shares, propping the edifice a while longer. But the guineas vanish into the void, leaving vaults echoing hollow. By mid-September, prices plunge to £700, then £500 in a week, fortunes evaporating like mist at dawn. Panic ignites, investors swarm the South Sea House, fists pounding oak doors, demanding sales that brokers refuse, overwhelmed by the crush. London convulses. Change Alley becomes a battlefield of desperation. Men in tattered finery claw for scraps of paper now worthless, women sobbing over pawned heirlooms. Sir Isaac Newton watches his £28,000 peak shrivel to £4,000, a loss of £24,000 that stings deeper than any calculus. Madness of crowds, he mutters in Trinity's quiet halls, his genius humbled by the market's feral tide. Suicides stain the Thames. A goldsmith swallows laudanum, his ledgers stained with red ink. A baronet flings himself from a garret, shares fluttering like doomed moths. Riots erupt. Mobs hurl stones at directors' carriages, chanting, "Give us our gold!" The elite scatter. Dukes who dreamed of Peruvian palaces now tally bankrupt estates. Poets like Pope nursing halved fortunes in silent fury. Parliament thunders into session October 21st, the air thick with betrayal's reek. Chancellor John Aislabie, pockets bulging with £50,000 in bribes, faces the bar, imprisoned in the Tower, his ledgers seized like contraband. Postmaster Earl Craggs, £20,000 richer, follows, his son dying by pistol in despair. King George I's mistresses return gifts, faces ashen under powdered wigs. John Blunt, the architect, hauled before the Commons, his empire of ink crumbling under cross-examination. Shares crater to £175 by November, £124 by December, £500 million in paper wealth dissolved, leaving debts that choke the nation's breath. The Bank of England teeters, propped by emergency loans, merchants bankrupt, trade stalls as credit freezes like winter frost. Reckoning ripples outward. Committees pore over ledgers by candle flame, uncovering the rot. Directors sold £30 million in shares at peak prices to insiders, leaving smallholders to the wolves. Walpole rises, the savviest commoner, engineering bailouts, £5 million from the bank, lotteries to redeem stock, taxes on the rich to staunch the bleed. Bribes exposed, knighthoods revoked, but the elite endure. Blunt exiled to a £5,000 pension, others fined yet unruined. Winter's frost etches patterns on the windows of South Sea House as 1721 dawns, the air thick with the silence of shattered ledgers. The vaults, once dreamed to brim with the clink of South American silver, echo only with the scrape of investigative quills and the distant toll of funeral bells. Robert Walpole, now Chancellor, navigates the wreckage with a surgeon's precision, dividing the company's remains among the Bank of England and East India Company, redeeming shares at modest fractions of their phantom peaks. Small holders claw back 10% here, 20% there, enough to stave off total destitution, but not to mend the hollowed estates or the suicide's shadows. Directors forfeit fortunes, Blunt's £300,000 hoard slashed to £5,000, Aislabie's tower cell, a grim monument to hubris. Yet the national debt endures, reshuffled but unbroken, a testament to Britain's resilient machinery of coin and credit. Markets stir anew by spring, wary footsteps replacing the old frenzy, as if the alley itself exhales a collective caution. From these cold stones emerges a quieter truth, one that bridges the fog of 1720 to the ledgers of our own time. The South Sea bubble was no aberration of wigs and waistcoats, it was debt's ancient alchemy, transmuting public burdens into private mirages, inflating until the weight of unreality crushes all. Today, as currencies whisper of inflation's slow theft and markets pulse with leveraged dreams, the same mechanics lurk, promises of endless ascent untethered from tangible yield. But history, in its measured voice, offers shields forged in the fires of collapse. Begin with reserves in sound assets, gold that gleams unchanged, land that yields harvest, or treasuries backed by enduring tax flows, not speculation's vapor. These form the unyielding base, immune to the bubble's burst. Diversify as the ancients hoarded grain against famine, spread holdings across commodities, steady equities, and sovereign debts of prudent realms, never wagering the whole on one ship's sail. Shun over-leverage, that silent thief which turns modest bets into manacles. Borrow only what harvest or wage can repay, leaving margin for the storm. Recognize the signs early, when shares outpace cargoes tenfold, when insiders feast while vaults empty, when rumor drowns the clink of real coin. Pause then, tally the ledgers by torchlight, and ask if the weight matches the promise. Inflation's creep, too, demands vigilance. Its hidden tax erodes savings like river on stone. Counter it with assets that rise with the tide, from real estate to enduring metals. These steps, as simple as sealing a vault against flood, empower the individual amid empire's tempests, turning vulnerability to quiet sovereignty. In contemplation, the bubble's ashes reveal a deeper rhythm. Every edifice of wealth, be it Britain's imperial vaults or Rome's arete coffers, carries the seeds of its undoing, greed's quiet sowing, debt's inexorable harvest. Echoing footsteps in empty markets remind us that fortunes vanish not in thunderclaps, but in the gradual hollowing of trust, the flicker of unchecked ambition dimming to cold stone. Across generations, history whispers the same unyielding warning. Paper empires crumble, but the patient guardian of coin endures. Perhaps next we turn to the tulip fields of Holland, where bulbs bloomed into bankruptcy, or the vaults of Versailles, drained by a king's endless fetes. Thank you for walking these shadowed alleys with Bankrupt History. If these tales guard your own ledgers, subscribe for the whispers yet to come.